Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Open Text Live Partner Webinar Series. I say partner because this series is presented by our Valuable Solutions Extensions partners to bring you some exciting new options and product solutions that will work for you in your businesses. Our presentation today is on an alternative approach to the Smart View SDK for a flawless user experience. It is presented by our solutions extension partner, Answer Modules. We're excited to have them today. And before we get started with that presentation, I just want to remind you that we do record every webinar in this series, and we'll send out a follow-up email with a link to the recording and any other assorted resources that might be associated. If you have any questions at any time during the presentation, we ask that you please put those into the Q&A panel. You'll see a chat bubble with a question mark. Go ahead and click on that. It's in the top right-hand corner of your screen. Put your questions there and we'll answer them as we are able. If not during, then definitely at the end of the presentation. All right, and without further ado, I'd like to hand it over to our first presenter today, and that's Paolo Romaldi from Answer Modules.
Thank you, Gretchen. Good day, good evening, good afternoon. Hello, everyone. I'm Paolo. I take care of the alliances and sales through channels here at Answer Modules, and with me today is Patrick, our CEO and CTO. And as you can probably tell from the title of the webinar today, we really want to focus on how we can best leverage the Smart View, utilizing some of the technology coming from Answer Modules. So I'm looking forward to obviously the session, the demo, but more importantly, the questions that you may have along the way. So before we get started, just usual housekeeping stuff. So I'll leave this on for a few minutes, or sorry, for a few seconds, and then we can jump right in, I think. So for those of you who have not heard of Answer Modules so far, we are obviously one of the technology partners with OpenText, or more, or better put, one of the solution extension partners. We fall under that program, quite a successful partner at that, as you can see by the various awards, the status that we have, but also the fact that we're the first Solex partner certified for the OT Cloud, and this is both VM and container deployments. And also some let's say key numbers, some key let's say facts about Answer Modules. First and foremost, we are a company that's focused on delivering product specifically exclusively for the content suite and extended DCM platforms from OpenText. So really add-on modules to enhance these platforms. The solution that we provide, they're 100% cross-industry. So we have customers from pharma, transportation, construction, government, essentially any industry that's out there. And as you can see from the numbers I have on the screen, quite an active and widespread community around the world that is leveraging our technology for extended DCM and content suite. So what is that solution, that product, from very, let's say, just the high level perspective, the usual pitch, if you will. The solution is called Module Suite. It is an add-on module for the extended DCM and content suite platform, and essentially it provides the capacity, the capabilities to really transform these platforms and do digital transformation initiatives easily on these platforms. And what this really comes down to, it's building, creating, delivering tailored business solutions, leveraging these platforms as the underlying platforms for, say, your business processes, needs, requirements, etc. So that's what the Module Suite is. Obviously, there's a whole host of capabilities from forms, automation, workflow, etc. But today, we will be focusing in on the capabilities it brings to the Smart View. So the Smart View, well-known, well-loved, we'll say more modern, intuitive UI. Obviously, we have seen it for quite a while, and obviously the benefits, they are quite self-evident, and that is obviously the increased productivity that comes with having a role-based interface, let's say an easier interface versus the classic view, and an increased user adoption that comes with the Smart View as well, just because, again, it does facilitate the work of the end users. Now, there are some challenges that come with adopting the Smart View, and we've broken these down into 3 main challenges. First is that when you want to start developing your tailored interfaces using the Smart View, Onyx, and DCM, you will need to utilize both the SDK, the Smart View SDK, as well as OScript development. And this is time-consuming, requires substantial effort, but more importantly, also requires some specialized knowledge and specialized skills. The second challenge that we've seen, or that we've heard in the marketplace, is that once you've built one of these interfaces utilizing this stack, if there's an update or a change that needs to be made, usually, there will need to be a redeployment of the package and a restart of the service, obviously causing interruptions to the business. And last but not least, these custom built modules, they can't really transition to the OT cloud. So they're not, let's say, cloud friendly. So how do we address these challenges? We address them using one of the key components of the module suite, and that is Smart Pages. So Smart Pages, along with the other modules, is, let's say, one of the pillars of module suite. And it is really a low-coding engine dedicated and utilized to create tailored dashboards, tailored interfaces, tailored menu items, easily, all within the Smart View and obviously on extended ECM. Now, there are obviously some key features of the Smart Page, and I believe we'll see, okay, some of these will be self-evident during the demonstration, but as everything that is tied to the product module suite, also Smart Pages has the idea, or has been built with the idea, of really simplifying the creation, the development work. And so for that reason, it is, or it comes with a visual drag and drop editor and an extensive library of ready to configure widgets. Again, just drag and drop widgets. But this library is not, let's say, static, it's not closed. Customers are already building their own bespoke widgets for their own bespoke needs that they have recurring use for. So the library can indeed be expanded based on everyone's, let's say, unique individual needs. Now, creating these interfaces, these dashboards, easily is, I'd say, half of the picture. The other half is what can be done with these interfaces. Now, to put it briefly, what we are able to do with Smart Pages is, if there's a UI element, we can back that UI element with business logic and business functions. So that UI element can actually be utilized to enact actions or interact with other UI elements as well. So really, the Smart Pages, it is about making it, let's say, simpler, faster, easier to create tailored interfaces, but also is about bringing more capabilities to the line of business through these UIs. So before I hand things off to Patrick for, let's say, the rest of the presentation, but more importantly, obviously, the demo, I just want to summarize again, what is the value, or what are the values that Smart Pages brings to the table. First and foremost, I believe, not to be redundant on the topic, but it is really about adopting a truly low-coding approach for meeting UI and essentially UX requirements coming from the line of business. No interruptions, so no restart or redeployment when a change needs to be made. Actually, change requests, it's almost daily life from the line of business. And also the fact that what is created with Smart Pages, and this is in general with Module Suite, it is cloud ready, so it can be easily transitioned to the cloud if that is your trajectory. And then one thing that is, let's say, in parallel to that load coding approach, or better yet, what that low coding approach brings is also the ability to really prototype quickly. So gathering a requirement from the end business, prototyping something, showing it literally sitting next to each other, showing and validating if that meets their requirement, making any changes, and essentially enabling a truly agile development methodology for your projects. And then last but not least is, since we're not, we don't have to leverage the SDK or OScript, this naturally brings a reduction in cost and effort when implementing UI personalizations or UI, let's say, based projects. And with that, I'll hand the mic to Patrick, and who will show you some examples before going into the live demonstration.
Thank you so very much, Paulo. So it's for me very exciting to be able to talk about the Smart View. I really like these new interfaces. It's not that new because obviously it has been introduced for some time now, but I think that the fact that it is constantly growing capabilities is something that is very helpful for everybody that is leveraging the solution. One of the things that we are constantly investing on is to bring more capabilities into the interface, so enabling new scenarios for our users. And Module Suite allows us not only to introduce new user interface elements, but given that we have the possibility to also implement the business logic associated to these user interface elements, what we typically have a great impact on is the user experience. So simplifying the usage of the platform, simplifying the development of specific business requirements on the platform. And as I said, we are constantly investing into it. And with the latest releases of Module Suite, we have introduced several new widgets that can be utilized in Smart Pages. So it can be utilized to compose your interfaces. So the one that you see on the screen is a new grid component that allows you to display large amount of data into a very flexible grid that can be adapted to basically any needs. And other widgets have been introduced and will be introduced in the next releases. So later on, when we will come to the demo part of this webinar, you will see some of these widgets in action, and you will probably be able to understand why and how these widgets can have a huge impact over the user experience for the end user. Paulo, can you move to the next slide? So this is another example of the widgets that we are introducing. So Document Editor is an inline document editor that allows you to basically upload a Word document and modifying it directly from the interface of the platform. It is a solution that has been largely utilized in our content lifecycle management application. And it is a solution that allows you to edit and modify and create simple Word documents directly from within the platform. Next slide, please, Paul. This other one is mentioned is various flavors of different data grids in order that can be utilized for displaying the most complex data and to filter them, sort them, aggregate the information that you are looking at. It's a very powerful solution for any dashboard that you might want to create on the platform. Next slide, please. And there's a set of other examples. So a scheduler will be soon introduced to allow you to easily create and manage meetings and other kind of requests, such as meetings in your agenda. Next slide, Paulo. And other examples related to tree grids, so other flavors of grids. Next slide, Paulo. And this is an example of these applications utilized in a real use case scenario. So as with Model Suite, you will see we can interject, we can enhance the Smart View experience in various ways. So there are various elements of the Smart View that we can act on. This is an example of a custom metadata panel in which we are basically providing the user information about the projects that are related to a specific city. So construction projects that are related to a specific city. And the beauty of this example is that everything that you see on the screen has been configured leveraging a set of widgets. So the risk metrics that you are see in the screen is a widget. The text that is on the right of it is a widget, and the grid below it another widget. So it's composing these pages, composing the most complex layout is most of the time just a matter of dropping the right widgets in the editor, configuring them appropriately, and you're ready to go. And the nice thing is that you do everything typically in real time without deploying anything, without restarting the system. Can you move on, Paolo? And now it's time to see all this good stuff in action. So in order to do that, I'm going to share my screen. And you should be able to see my screen. So I like to show you how things are built from the most simple to the most complex. So we will come back to here later on. But first of all, I'd like to let you briefly understand how these enhancements in Smart View are actually managed with Model Suite. So what you typically do with Model Suite is with the suite, when you install the solution, the system creates a new volume dedicated to Model Suite. So main content script volume. Inside of this volume, you have several different folders. Each one of them is utilized for implementing a specific functionality of the suite. So Smart View, CS Smart View is the folder on which we are going to be focused for today. In here, you can see different folders. So you have the first four folders are meant for defining the kind of enhancements that you want to apply. So for example, defining the new action that you want to be available for the user, the new columns that needs to be displayed in certain areas of your repository, whatever. And the last folder, so overrides, is the one that allows you to limit these enhancements to specific portion of your repository. So it's basically where you define where these enhancements should be made available and for which user, for example, or under which condition these enhancements need to be made available. I like to show you examples of how these enhancements are created, and for that, I'm going to leverage our training center, which is, as you might know, an application that comes with Model Suite. Basically contains a set of examples, prepackaged example that the application itself will install and configure on your system so that you can learn from that and study them and eventually start from that in order to modify and create your own. So let's start from a simple customization of a menu in a specific folder. And I will utilize this multi-commands menu. So click on download. What the system is doing through the automation of Model Suite is basically installing the application in my system. And so if I go now into my Model Suite example, I have a multiple commands menu here. And the examples basically will work only on this documents folder. And so in this document folder, as you see, we have added an additional menu, try Model Suite, and two submenus here. So I can utilize this new functionality for the single document. I can utilize this functionality for multiple document selection, okay? So how this functionality has been implemented. So first of all, under command has been created a new script, and this script has been defined leveraging the snippet here. So Smart View menu command that helps you in defining the command that you want to create. Looking at the code that was actually created, you will see that we have basically a component here that is a group, is basically try model suite, and then we have the 2 additional comments. So this one that is the information menu, and this is the rename, and then we have the information menu, show pop-up information at the end. The relevant part is the execution mode, so what the menu should do, okay? So let's start examining, for example, the show pop-up information. So as you see here, we have several options. So the most simple one is an action. So we'll ask the system to execute an action, and here is the script that is going to be executed. So when you execute an action is basically meaning triggering a business logic handler that is implemented in this case with our content scripting engine. So if I go back to my page, I can see that if I click on it, the system basically is displaying a pop-up, and this is the information that is displayed. So basically for each document is collecting information about the subtype of the document that I have selected. So how this is done, so we can look and examine the script, and you will see that basically the script that we are executing is receiving the list of nodes that we have selected and the additional parameters. So switch parameter mode basically allows us to pass to this action additional parameters, so we can say I want to execute an action in this case. And what the script does is to do its work and then just return a message, okay? And I can very easily change the kind of message that is displayed, just changing that script. So I can change from a success message to a warning message, doesn't matter what. What I can do is just, in this case, very easily to change the kind of action that I want to execute. So for example, say that I want my script to actually perform some job. So I can turn the execution mode into download. And now I will also change the mode here. So the name of the parameter to download. And what this script is going to do in case of download is basically going to create a new zip file, password protected zip file, is going to add every node to the zip file, and is going basically to return this zip file to me after having renamed it. So again, now if I select these documents and I try to do it again, so I have to reload this in the page and try to do again. What the system is going to do is trigger the download, and here we have the downloaded Excel file, downloaded zip file. So if I now try to unzip the file, so for example, extract it here, the system will prompt me for extracting the file with password. So all suite, and here we are. So the 2 documents that we exported and we inserted into the zip file. And other actions that I can manage, for example, the rename is implementing a different business logic. In this case, is executing script. And the script, as you can read from here, is very useful in order to perform the action on a collection, so the selection, and basically to reload the collection once the operation is completed. So I can, again, rename these files. The system will prompt me for confirmation, and that is basically because in the configuration of the menu, I specified that a confirmation is required. So I can easily turn this to false in order not to receive this message again once I selected again the option. So I can select everything and now just renamed it. And what the system did was, as you see, renamed the document accordingly to my policy. In this case, was just prefix the name of the existing documents with a renamed prefix. And as you reload the page, so the collection that we were looking at. So as you have seen, how simple it was to introduce new functionality in the user interface in the exact same form of that is for any other standard functionality. So this is a very important thing. So through these enhancements that you apply to the Smart UI, you are not in any way increasing the cost of ownership of the platform, because you are not creating an interface that you have to own and that is completely customized. So we just introduce, for example, we follow the same paradigms of the standard interface. So a menu executing action can execute different action, can perform different kind of, can produce different kind of results. So if we go back to our example, so let me clean up this one. And I'd like now to show you a different flavors. So customization of the browse view in terms of the columns displayed. So I can download and ask the system to set up this example. And what the system did was, again, to just define this new example and create all the objects that are needed for the example. So this is no longer be available. So we no longer have comments. What the system created this time is a column script. And if you look at the column script, again, it's pretty easy. And basically what it does is, for a specific space, it's create two columns. And what we can also do is, in this case, remove standard columns. So again, if we go in the example and we enter the documents folder, you will see that basically what we did was to remove a couple of standard columns. So the sites and modified date, they were removed. And in place of them, we have added this training icon column and this training status column. So you can work with either standard columns, or you can leverage our model suite specific kind of column identified by this number. So this is just one piece of the story. So this is, as I mentioned, is where the columns are defined. If we look at the overrides, so what the system did in here was to define that for the specific folder, so for the specific portion of the repositories, for every document, we want this script to be executed. And what this script does is basically to feed the system with the value for the different columns. So the training icon column and training status column. And everything is basically managed by these two functions that are defined in this portion of the script. But what they do is just to produce the HTML to be displayed utilizing random data. So it's nothing fancy here. But as you see, you can utilize this function to display whatever you want and the kind of information that is more relevant for you. And this can be applied just to this space and not to the entire repository. So this is very localized as a kind of enhancements. The next example I'd like to show you, so let me clean up this one as well. So the next example that I'd like to show you is this custom lazy menu. So what this menu does is to basically create a menu that can be utilized in the from the interface. So Smart View, in this case, instead of being a comment in here, it is an action. Okay. And so if we look at these examples, we will have custom lazy menu. Okay, under documents, you see here, so the document, the menu is not immediately available on here, but is loaded and lazily. So this is the kind of functionality that you want to utilize whenever determining if the action should be made available for a specific object might be expensive. So you do not want to preload all these menus for all the objects. So a typical example that I like is I want, for example, to perform an operation over a document, and this operation is somehow related to certain workflows. So what I might want to do is to check that if there's already that specific kind of workflow running for that specific document. And if it is not, I can display this additional item in the menu so that the user can start this specific kind of workflow. Obviously, checking for all the workflow running in the systems might be expensive, so you do not want to do that for every document that is displayed in the page. So this is something that you can do lazily. So only when the user will try to perform the action, the computation will be actually performed. So again, it's just a different way of performing the same computation. So, and if I perform the action, what the system does is, again, similarly, execute the business logic implemented by content script. In this case, again, is renaming the document associated to that document. Next, I'd like to show you. So let's clean this. This one is a very similar example. Once again, we have a document, a customization that is related to the menus displayed for user for the specific items. The main difference is that this time what we are doing is to open a panel. So if you look at the configuration, so for the custom menu that has been created, so you will see that the execution mode this time is panel. So the relevant part of the configuration will be this one. And this is basically specify which kind of panel needs to be open. So what will be the content of the panel and what will display into the panel. So this panel here is actually a smart page. So and this is the widget that, sorry, the object that allows me to create teaser interfaces just with drag and drop. And so what happens is that when I click on the preview document, what the system does is to open a preview of the document into a spanner. So I can very easily change the configuration. So say that I want the panel to be smaller, I can do that. And if in here I want this to be reduced significantly, and I want to add, for example, I don't know, some text to it. So I can do something like a title and subtitle, something like that. I can do that. And now again, what is happening is that when I click on it on preview document, I will have the text that I've selected plus the viewer for the PDF. And obviously I can easily rearrange the dimensions, so I can do this kind of thing very easily. So it's really just a matter of changing the information displayed, and you see we have the possibility of changing how the widget is presented and information is displayed. So as you've seen, everything is very fast. I don't have to code much. I don't have to modify anything on the system. I don't have to deploy anything. So everything can happen very fast. I can easily iterate over the changes that I'm applying to the system, and for deciding in order to decide which are the best one. And last, we can see we start seeing how smart pages can have an impact over the interfaces. Let me show you how other pages, other elements of the interface can be implemented with Model Suite. So Model Suite comes with a library of predefined tiles that can be utilized into Smart View perspectives. Obviously, the tile that displays the smart page is the most flexible because allows me to display a page, and the page is made of widgets, so I can create very complex interfaces with just that widget. But there are also other widgets that have been engineered in order to simplify and create a nice user experience. So this is for example, a widget that is meant for displaying a tree navigation model, so I can easily navigate into different folders of my hierarchy very quickly from this tree menu. And the nice thing is that the tree menu, again, is highly configurable. I can configure it to display whatever information I want. It doesn't need to be a folder structure, or it doesn't need, it can be the result of a search, can be a it can be a collection, can be whatever you need it to be. And the widget allows you to perform different kind of actions on the click of each item. So I can use this example to do more complex things. I like to show you an example of all these elements combined to show you how that can be utilized and leveraged in a real live application. So what we have here is a very, let's say, simple application that allows me to ingest documents intelligently into my system. So I basically open my system, open the portion of the repository where I have these functionality enabled. I have on this system, I have the records management activated. So we are leveraging records management classification, cross references, etc. And what these enhancements have been applied to is in order to simplify for me the possibility of creating new records and ingesting new documents. So I can go anywhere in the system. So I can look at the reports. I can go in the incoming correspondences. And for every folder in this place, we added this add record menu. So what the add record menu does is to prompt me with a menu, with a panel that allows me to create and classify automatically different kinds of record. So I can, in here, I can add incoming correspondence, and in Smart Pages, what I can do is to display any sort of, how do you say, beautiful web form. So we leverage basically our beautiful web form in Smart Page whenever an input from the user is required, meaning that this Smart Page, so this element of the interface has been created again with an editor and has been configured, and automatically we can provide this interface and provide additional functionality. So for example, as you see, the form is pre-filled, and this is because this application allows me to allows me to store the default values that I want to utilize as a starting point for every record that I upload. So I can apply changes here. So for example, I can decide that the division should be finance and save this as a default. As you see, we basically provide information that the default has been saved. So next time I will create a new record. What the system will automatically do is to default this value to finance. So if I upload a document here, so I can upload a PDF document here. I can ask the system to automatically apply a naming convention to the record. I can decide if I want to move the records in a specific folder or not. Let me upload demo data for this one. So once ready, I can just hit the create button, and what the system does is to create a new record with the new naming convention applied, and gave me a feedback about the fact that the metadata was correctly applied, and now everything is okay. From this additional menu that we have created, I can still manage the categories information in a more structured way. So I can, for example, again, change the division, and this is automatically, obviously, reflected to the division category, so that the attribute division of the category that is associated to the document. So everything is obviously synchronized with categories, etc. But from this menu, I can also start the approve record workflow. So when I click on it, what the system does is to, again, prompt me for confirmation. Do you want to start the workflow? Yes, I want to start a workflow. And what the system did was to start a new workflow and providing evidence in the interface that a workflow is running and we are in the review status. Now, with Model Suite, what we did was to build a very simple dashboard leveraging again Smart Pages and a simplified grid widget that allows me to look at all my workflows in this case. So I can filter all the workflows that are related to requests that I've started. We can look at where the workflow is, as you mentioned, review states, and we can directly take action from here. So you can customize the information that you're looking at. You can change the filtering that is applied in here. So you see how easy it is to create and dashboards that are productive for your users. So in this case, we are redirecting the user to the workflow steps. You can look at the document. You can insert workflow comments if needed. So I can add my workflow comments. And what I can do is to either reject or approve the request. And if I approve the request, what the system does is to automatically ended up the workflow. And in this case is also creating an additional document, which is basically a report of what happened to that record, and also created a cross-reference that allows me to go directly to that report. So I can open the report and look at what happened, what the user in the workflow they commented, and the audit trail of the workflow. As you see, everything where we were able to introduce all these enhancements and to simplify the usage of the application to for our users. So it's now very easy for them to add a new record, etc. Similarly, if we go back to our Model Suite example here, I'd like to show you an example where we are working with the panels. So as you see here in construction panels, we can go into the properties for the set of folders. And you see here, we have the standard properties panels. So if I'd like to have an additional panel displayed here, what I can do is, again, just to define what the panel should do. So again, in Smart View, I have my meta panels. I have the definition of the panel. And in this case, the panel will be named project, and we will display basically a Smart page. And then we have to decide where this panel should be displayed. And again, we have in this case a global script that allows me to associate this panel to every object. So basically, when the panel would be available, what the system is going to do is to pass the information about the node that we have selected to the panel, and the information related to this specific panel will be displayed. So now I have projects, I click on projects, and I've loaded the information about the projects. And from here, I have my grid widget that I can utilize to manage all the information about the construction projects that we are dealing with. So we have all the construction project. I can order them, group them by the constructor, for example, and I can easily change the value for each one of them very quickly and perform a mass update of all this information. So now everything has been updated directly into the system. And I can eventually even decide to sort this thing by the amount. So I'm automatically grouped by the contractor, and I can sort stuff in various way. Or I can leverage this widget, for example, for performing more complex filtering, such as, for example, I might want to, I don't know, clear and select just these two, and I will have just the two available. So this is an example of how, again, you can display Smart Pages in various contexts, in this case as a property page for the object that you have selected. And I will end this portion of the webinar giving you an example of other way of leveraging with or working with the Smart Pages. So you can build interactive dashboards in which you basically have information that is displayed and go by, for example, in this case, the job grade of the user. We can leverage beautiful web forms to filter the information that we are looking at. We can make the different tiles talk to each other, so we can have elements of the interface, for example, on the sidebar on the right, that govern what is displayed on the left. So I can have a set of buttons here that allows me to decide what I need to show. So the analytics or the employee workspaces. So the standard widgets for working with the standard business workspaces, or the employee list, or even a new form to register a new employee and to create a new record. Okay, so you see how complex the infrastructure and the application can become and can be tailored for specific business needs. An example of a complex application with a complex interface, I'd like to show you a glimpse of the contract lifecycle management application, where I have the possibility to work with contracts that have been created. So you see, we are still in the context of the Smart View, but we have obviously a tailored user experience for work with a contract, so we can follow how the contract is organized. We can view the contract, which is made a set of clauses that compose a single Word document. We can have these panels that allows me, for example, to change the clauses. I can edit a single clause, so I can have an editor that allows me to inline edit the information that is placed in the Word document. We can have complex menu to be displayed that allows the user to select the proper placeholders to be placed in the document. And we can have these information displayed here. And we can even, through this same interface, govern the executional workflow, but not only the executional workflow, but we can, for example, as in this case, starting a workflow based on the roles of the business workspace, and at the same time displaying the information about the tasks that are now available for, in this case, the owner as a role and the legal users of this workspace as a role. And from here, they can directly send the user to execute the approval task on the Word document and move things forward for this specific application. So you can see how complex the interface can become and how rich it can become, leveraging again smart pages combined with simple announcements and more complex announcements that impact how the interface is actually displayed. And with that, I have completed the demonstration part. I think that's a good time for any question if you have one.
Yep, we've got a few. First question, how is the load on the server for handling this? Any additional strain on the server? Let's say 20,000 users with 100 different start pages.
So that really depends on how you implement things. So it's really not an overload that is per se introduced by the solution. From that point of view, it's very limited, but depends obviously on the kind of interaction, the kind of thing that you do. So if you perform very, let me say, heavy computation, or you introduce very poorly designed software, obviously that will have an impact. But typically, the impact is very limited. So the announcements per se, they do not introduce much of an impact. And plus, in the system offers also you the possibility in productive systems to cache a lot of information. So you can leverage different caching mechanisms in order to further improve the user experience for the end users.
Okay, next question. The data grid looks really powerful. Can we use the data grid to export too?
Yes. So the data grid natively supports exports to Excel files and PDF files.
And these new widgets are available at no additional cost. Is that correct?
It is correct.
Are there any examples available? Training center, support portal, etc.
So yes, we are, as you have seen, so we are starting introducing several examples in the training center. They will serve as a starting point for this kind of enhancements. More will be introduced with the next releases, both on training centers, developers.answermodels.com, and also I always refer to showcase@answermodels.com if you want to see other examples of the application that you can build with Model Suite. It's very helpful to get ideas and to, let me say, look at the art of the possible in terms of what you can do with the application.
We'll wait to see if we have any additional questions coming in. While we're waiting, I'll just remind you that we are recording this session, and we'll send out a follow-up with a link to the recording as well as any associated resources. If you don't receive that recording for whatever reason, please reach out to us at partners@opentext.com. Or if you think of a question after the fact, you can reach out to us, or you've got Paolo and Joe's information on your screen. You can reach out to them with your questions. Additional questions, Paolo or Patrick, if you'd like to say anything to wrap up?
Oh, you're on mute.
Okay. No, I think I hope this this session was valuable for everyone. Like Christian mentioned, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us or also to your OT reps. And we'll be more than happy to look into your request, your specific use case, and see how we could collaborate to essentially bring more value to your XNDCM and content server installations and investments, essentially.
Well, thank you so much to Paolo and Patrick from Answer Modules. Thank you all for your attendance today, and have a great rest of your day and a happy holiday.
Thank you, everyone.
Everybody, happy holiday.